Hi everyone, we are just outside of Haines, Alaska, and I'd say about 15 miles, and we're probably about 18, 20 miles from the Canadian border. We are at the Chilkoot Eagle Preserve.
And yes, it's right outside of Haines. Haines is a small town in southeastern Alaska. Otherwise, this area is also known as the Inside Passage, and it sits on a beautiful inlet off the Alaskan Gulf, and it's really an amazing area. We have been going out each evening and actually seeing bear down by the Chilkoot River, and they seem really acclimated to the area. They're catching salmon each night, and it's a thing for the tourists to all drive down there and watch the bear come out at night.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, but we thought we would take the time and talk about our trip to Alaska. We have officially been in Alaska 8 weeks. We crossed into the state of Alaska on June the 19th. And the way we came up was unusual from the way we usually travel. The way we used to travel was we had 2 or 3 weeks of vacation, and we would drive straight through where we were going, and then vacation for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it was, and then drive back. This trip actually gave us a chance to take our time and enjoy the trip along the way. When we left our home in Fayetteville, Texas, we actually drove up through West Texas, into Oklahoma, into let's see, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana. We ended up at West Glacier National Park, which is, you'll see the videos on, it's beautiful. And then we went over to Canadian border, and we traveled through the Yukon and all the parts of Canada, which were amazing. The wildlife that we've seen there was more than we've seen in Alaska. The roads were not as bad as people told us they were going to be. We had plenty of fuel stops. We didn't have to worry about fuel, and it was really just a very enjoyable trip. There are a couple of sections of the road that are maybe gravel or bumpy gravel for maybe 10 miles at a stretch, but that's it. But we crossed over into Alaska on June 19th, right?
Yes, 2 months ago.
2 months ago today. So what is some of your favorite areas in Alaska?
Denali definitely will rank very high on that list. I love national parks. They are such special places, and to me, Denali is like the best of the best of them. I love how that they've been able to still keep a lot of it wild, and part of that is because they restrict how much road traffic there is after so many miles in. Think about 15 miles.
Yeah.
You can't go any farther in a car. You have to take one of their buses. Um, I think that kind of helps with keeping it more wild. I love the hiking that was there, and there was more hiking on trails than what we had, I thought, understood that there was there. You can actually hike in Denali off trail, but we were not perhaps
That
quite
brave.
that brave to do that because we were hearing so much about all of the bear activity, and we just felt like, we just did not feel comfortable with that
Yeah, doing
aspect
that.
of it. So we stayed on more well traveled hiking trails, and we didn't see a single bear.
Nope.
We did see the moose that day, but they didn't seem to
Right.
mind us, and all was good.
Right. We just kept our distance from them and let them go about their business. And when they left, then we continued on with the trail.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, I mean, I love Denali too, but Homer was one of my favorite towns. Homer's a little town. It's right on in the Kenai Peninsula, and it's a little what they call the Homer Spit. It's a little community that exists right on like a little island, and the town had everything you could want. It had scenic beauty, it had hiking trails, it had a lot of cultural activities going on. We camped right on the ocean, or on the bay, I should say, but we wound up staying there, what, two weeks?
I think even
We were
longer.
there
We
a
didn't want
lot,
to leave.
yeah, a lot longer than we had anticipated we were going to stay in Homer, but it was well worth it. Um, and then we moved over to
Seward.
Seward. Okay, Seward was nice. It was a nice town.
Yes.
Another one that's on the right on the, I guess the Sound you would call it. And from Seward we went to Valdez. Valdez was breathtaking, amazingly beautiful. Very, very just drastic beauty in Valdez. Yeah.
Yes, Prince William Sound is truly amazing, and that's where we were able to take a boat tour out where we got to see some of the wildlife. We saw sea otters that day and sea lions, even a couple of whales. I was not able to get them on video because you just kind of have to be patient and wait for them to come to the surface. And when they do, you don't know exactly when that will be and where it will be. So I did catch a couple pictures that we put up on the blog of that. And then we went and saw in that boat tour, we saw Columbia Glacier. And that was absolutely spectacular. There were icebergs floating in the water. You could hear as well as see that glacier calving where large chunks of ice just fell into the ocean. It was amazing, amazing beauty that day.
Yeah. And on the way into Valdez, we passed two waterfalls. We passed Bridal Veil Falls, and then we passed Horsetail Falls, right? And I mean, it was just amazingly beautiful. I know we keep saying that, but this trip has been one for the record books. We have some beauty in the United States, but crossing through Canada and seeing the wild wilderness and up into Alaska and just seeing the drastic, dramatic beauty has certainly been worth it. I mean, if we had more time, we would spend another 4 weeks here. We are, well, they say they're starting their fall right about now.
Yeah.
And it'll continue through the end of September, which September is very rainy, and then into October is when they expect to see the first snowfalls. So I think our timing is good. We'd like to stay a little longer, but we really need to get back to the lower 48. But
we now have a challenge with that. Yes.
Yeah, we do. We have a challenge, and actually we were going to leave last Friday, and we decided to hold off because there's been wildfires throughout Canada, and the wildfires are burning right close to the Cassiar Highway, which is the route we want to take back. We could go back through Calgary, but the smoke in Calgary and Edmonton is at very extremely high levels and extremely dangerous. So we're just going to kind of sit back and wait for the authorities to take care of that, and we may be here another week, or we don't know, but certainly we'll enjoy our time here, and our thoughts and prayers go out to all those people that are affected by all the fires, not only in Canada but in the United States as well. So yeah, so Alaska's a beautiful place. We just threw out one of each of our favorites, but there is plenty to see and do in Alaska. You could spend months up here during the summer and never see it all. We've talked to people that have been up here, coming up here 11 years and continue to return because of how beautiful it is, and each time they come back they see something different. So if you're ever thinking about it, I highly recommend it, whether you drive, which it'd be amazing drive, or whether you fly and see it that way. It's worth the trip.
You can rent an RV actually out of Anchorage, and there are a ton of rentals up here. I've never seen so many RVs in my life, but there's quite a few people that are doing it that way. And if we ever do this again, that's kind of a thought that could be a possibility, just to cut off some of the drive time that we decided to.
It is a thought, but coming through Canada was amazing too. I wouldn't want to miss like Jasper and the Icefields Parkway, and just coming up through that wilderness and seeing moose and elk and bear and caribou and just all kinds of wildlife, sheep and goats, and they're right alongside the road. So hey, I mean, if you're gonna come, I really recommend you drive. Just to give yourself the time to do it. Don't be in a hurry. Drive 4 or 5 hours a day. Stop for a day or two, and then move on. But I think that's a good recap. I hope you enjoy this video, and we'll be back soon with more videos.